Hello everyone, and thank you for joining today's LinkedIn Live. My name is Aneta Gel and I am a Quality Operations and Training Manager at Pharma Limited. Today I'm going to talk about skills gap in pharma, a topic that affects every pharmaceutical professional, whether you are just starting your career, already established in a specialist role, a supervisor in your team, or whether you are preparing for your next promotion. The question behind it is very simple. Are you future-proof? When we hear the phrases like skills gaps, we often think that it sounds like a workforce planning a problem for HR or senior leadership. But actually, it is more a personal development question because it simply asks, are my current skills enough for where the industry is going? Am I building the capabilities that will make me trusted, employable, and promotable over the next few years? And more importantly, can I show evidence of that development? I'm not going to talk about skills in an abstract way today, but I would like to talk about it in a more practical setting. We will look at what is changing in pharma, what gaps are appearing, and what you can personally do to close them. The aim is that by the end of the session, you can identify your own development priorities and think more deliberately about training, experience, and evidence. Because future-proofing is not about trying to predict everything and every change in the future. It is about building the habits and the judgment and the learning agility that will help you stay valuable as the work environment changes. So let's start with the skills, why the skills gap matters. When people hear the phrase skills gap, they often think only about vacancies or recruitment difficulties. But the skills gap is also about the changed work environment we are experiencing. The work itself is becoming more digital, more regulated, and more cross-functional. And of course, with all that, it is more evidence-driven. AI and automation are changing our routine tasks, but that doesn't remove the need for people. What it does do, it changes the value of people in those tasks. The more automated the workplace becomes, the more important the oversight, judgment, and accountability become. And at the same time, as we all know, regulatory expectations are still staying high. Your data integrity, the risk-based decisions, and inspection readiness are still central to trust within the industry. The products are more complex, as is their supply chains, and the pressure to deliver faster without compromising quality is ever increasing. So future-proofing is not about trying to know everything. It is about building the kind of capability that allows you to adapt, learn quickly, and make sound decisions in the changing environment. Okay, so when I talk about the skills, I like to explain the main gaps through 4 connected points. The first one is a regulated competence. This is your GMP and GXP foundation knowledge. It includes knowledge on documentation, data integrity, quality systems, risk management, and understanding why the controls exist. And this is still a true core credibility in our industry. If you are not reliable in your regulated work, nothing else will compensate for that. The second gap is digital and data fluency. This doesn't mean that you need to become data scientist or the next world programmer. It means that you need enough confidence to work safely with data, systems, and AI-assisted tools. You need to ask good questions. You need to understand its limitations and avoid blindly trusting its outputs. The third gap here is problem-solving ability. Pharma does not need people who only process deviations and complete forms and close them for good KPI numbers. Pharma needs people who can investigate properly and identify true root causes and then design effective corrective actions that will prevent a reoccurrence. And this is one of the clearest ways how to become trusted in your role when you do this properly. The fourth gap here is the human judgment or the human behavior that incorporates all the communication, the collaborations and ethics, your adaptability and self-awareness. These skills matter even more now as our work becomes more automated because machines can process the information and the data, but we cannot replace the professional judgment, accountability, or trust. Now, when I talk about the future proof here, it means that we need to work on strengthening all four of these gaps or concentrate on all 4 points that I've mentioned. Because you may already be strong in one or more areas, but if there are areas that are weak, your career options could narrow slightly, and that is what we don't want. The best candidates are not only qualified, they are visibly developing. They can show that they are continuously learning and applying and improving. And this is the mindset that I would like us to start using. So how do I assess my readiness for the future, you could ask? A useful way to assess your own future readiness is using the so-called T-shaped profile. The vertical part of the T is your depth, and this is your core pharma expertise. And that could be quality assurance, manufacturing, validation, or engineering, or any specialized area that you've been working in. This depth gives you the credibility. This is what allows people to trust that you understand the core role. And then we have the horizontal part of the T, which is your breadth. This includes digital literacy, cross-functional understanding, regulatory awareness, or ability to work across teams or at different levels within your organization. Breadth gives you mobility and will help you adapt when your role changes or when the systems that you work with change, or when you need to collaborate with people outside of your usual function. And then there's the important part in all this, and that is evidence. Because depth and breadth are only convincing when you have evidence, when you can show the proof of your depth and your breadth of knowledge. That proof might be the project, an investigation, an audit result, or a training application, a feedback from stakeholders, or a measurable improvement. And what you need to do is you need to ask yourself 3 questions when you're preparing your proof. First, What specialist competence can I prove? Not what I claim to know, but what I can demonstrate with real examples. Second question is, what breadth am I adding this year? For example, am I improving my data skills or my regulatory understanding? Or am I working on my communication across functions? And the third question, what evidence will I show that I am working and improving on this particular part? If you've completed a training, how will you apply it? If you learned a new tool, what will that improve? Will it improve the process or the decision making? So if you run a project and it went well, or you steered an investigation in the right direction and I helped identify the true root cause that is following your recent training, keep that as evidence of your growth. Future-proofing is not about just collecting random training certificates. It is about building a stronger T-shaped profile and making your development visible. So let's look at the individual gaps that I've mentioned in more detail. So we'll start with the regulated foundations. Across every level in pharma, employers look for reliable GMP thinking and patient-focused decision-making. And this is not about knowing your procedure. This is about understanding why the procedure exists, why it controls the risks and how it controls the risks and what could happen if that control fails. So we start with GMP and GXP thinking. And the future-proof professional will not just follow an SOP mechanically, they will understand the purpose behind the control and how their actions will protect patients, the product, and the integrity of the overall process. I started my career in the production environment and I've been through many GMP refreshers and trainings. And what I noticed even then was how many people would leave after the first GMP training while still within their probation period, saying that this job wasn't for them. And I didn't understand it then, but I understand now that it was they didn't get the GMP thinking. And that is one of the key elements. If you don't get it at the beginning, then you just know that the pharmaceutical industry environment is not for you. Then you have good documentation practice. That is another essential area. You start from beginning when you join pharmaceutical company. That is the first thing that everyone concentrates. Part of GMP training. So records need to be accurate and clear, attributable and complete. Data integrity, central. Alcoa plus behaviors are not just an inspection language. They are your daily behaviors in how we record, review, correct, and rely on information. Quality risk management, another major development area. You need to have your ICHQ9 style thinking. It helps you prioritize, justify decisions, and explain why one issue requires urgent action while another one may be controlled differently. So the future-proof candidate doesn't just know the words. They understand how these systems interact, how poor decisions can create repeat problems. I see regularly in my work where people in QA positions are closing deviations with limited information at hand, reducing the kappa through training or and the root cause to human error. So consider the training that includes GMP refreshers, good documentation practice, data integrity or root cause analysis, validation, if you want to build that particular part of the skills gap. This topic may sound familiar, but it needs to remain powerful because it needs to be the foundation of your career building. You will never know everything, and there's always something new to learn. The second area that I want to look a bit more in detail into is your digital data and AI fluency. Everyone talks about AI, everyone is using AI, and it is here and it is powerful. And I would like to say this very clearly, that you don't need to become a programmer to become future-proof. What you need to do, you need to have enough fluency to work safely and intelligently with the modern AI-based tools. Data confidence means being able to read dashboards, trends, and metrics critically. What it means is that you can ask, what does this data actually prove? What is it telling me? Or what might it be missing? In quality and operations, that kind of thinking is extremely valuable. System awareness means understanding the digital systems that you use in your function. This could be your EQMS, your LIMS, or your ERPs, or other, other platforms. You don't have to be the system administrator, but you should understand how these systems work and how they support your processes. As AI literacy becomes more and more important, we need to focus on understanding the use cases, the limitations, the bias, and the validation needs. And of course, most importantly, as the regulators are now identifying the importance of human oversight. AI can support work, but in a regulated environment, we cannot blindly just accept its outputs. The safe practice rules are simple. Use approved systems and data only. Start with clear business question. Validate outputs rather than accepting dashboards or AI suggestions at face value. Document your assumptions, your checks, and your decisions, and translate your insight into measurable improvement. Useful training here could include your Excel or Power BI training, your data governance, digital quality systems, or AI literacy for regulated professionals. And of course, the aim of the training is to become more technical and understand it a little bit better, being able to ask good questions and make better decisions and work safely with your digital tools. And now the third area is problem solving. In pharma, people who can solve problems will become trusted very quickly. This is true whether you are early in your career, you're working as a specialist, or you're leading a team. And the reason here is simple. Repeated problems will create risks. They cost, they cause delays, and they create frustrations. So if you are a strong problem solver, you can help prevent that. A good problem-solving approach starts with defining the issue clearly. What exactly happened? Where did it happen? How often has it happened? And what is the impact? Then we contain the issue. We have the immediate question. What protects the patient, the product, and the process right now? Containment is not the final answer, but it is essential while the investigation continues. Then you move on to your investigation, and that's where your evidence becomes really important, because evidence matters, and we need to avoid jumping into conclusions, the easiest explanations, or the four most familiar causes. We need to look at the processes, the people, the materials, and the equipment, not just going down the familiar route. We need to give the investigation the time that it deserves. And then once you've done that, you will correct the real cause, not just the visible symptom. And after that, you will put a action in place that you will strengthen the process, you will stop the reoccurrence, and of course, once you've done that, you will verify your effectiveness. Did it actually work? Did we stop the issue from reoccurring? And important, you always need evidence. And this, you might think, why are we talking about this here? But this is a career strengthening skill. If you become known as someone who investigates carefully, who communicates clearly, and prevents repeat issues, you'll become easier to trust with responsibility. Training in root cause analysis, CAPA or investigation writing, and quality risk management can really make a difference here. I understand that this approach is not always welcome. I have experienced situations where QA team would be told that they just have a given time for each investigation. And that is truly a recipe for disaster and result in no process improvement. You get repeated deviations and eventually a really bad regulatory inspection. And that would be the best case, really. The fourth area is our human skills, the skills that AI cannot replace. When technical skills are similar, selection often comes down to judgment, communication, and trust when it comes to selecting candidates. And these skills feel softer, but in pharma, they have very hard consequences, because poor communication can delay escalation, poor collaboration can weaken investigations, and poor judgment can create a quality and compliance risk. Critical thinking here is about challenging assumptions and explaining your reasoning. This is the ability to ask, what evidence do we have for this? And what else could be true? Communication is about translating technical details into a clear action. Different audiences need different level of detail. An operator, a QA reviewer, or senior leader may need the same facts explained in a slightly different way. And then we have the collaboration part, which is essential, because in pharma, the work is rarely isolated. QA, QC, production, and regulatory are all interconnected. You've got your commercial teams, engineering and supply chain that all depend on each other. And the ability to work across those boundaries without creating unnecessary friction is a real strength. Next one is adaptability, and that matters because the tools, the priorities, and the regulations change, and they will continue to change. And people who stay calm and keep learning and help others to adjust to the changes are extremely valuable in any team. Then we have ethics and integrity, which are simply non-negotiable. We need people who escalate concerns and make patient-focused decisions, and even when there is pressure. Self-awareness is what helps us grow. get feedback and get feedback early so you can improve and learn. There is always a room for improvement. And these skills can be trained and practiced: communication, influencing without authority, or conflict management. You could do a training on presentation skills, coaching. It's very useful at every level. Now, let's bring this all back to the career levels. So, future-proofing looks different depending on where you are in your career, but the themes are the same: technical credibility, digital awareness, problem solving, human judgment, and evidence. If you are early in your career, focus on the precise GMP habits. Ask good questions, be inquisitive, document work carefully, and understand why the procedure exists. You volunteer for improvement tasks, because at this stage, reliability and curiosity are powerful signals. Work on your foundations, on your GMP, GXP foundation. If you are an experienced specialist, aim to become known for your knowing how to solve difficult problems and helping others build that capability. Your value is not only in what you know, but in how you apply it and how you help your team to improve. If you are a supervisor or a team leader, your evidence needs to include prioritization, escalation judgment. You need to be good at coaching and, of course, at cross-functional delivery. You are not only doing work anymore, you are helping others to do it well and safely. So listen carefully to your team. If you're a manager or a senior expert, the expectation here becomes broader, of course. You need to connect your technical decision to strategy, to the risk and patient outcomes. You've got the cost, the compliance, and the capability. And you are expected to see the overall system, not just a simple task. So the key principle is that you do not wait for the title of your new position before you start practicing the behaviors of the next level. If you want the next role, you start building the evidence now. You look for small opportunities to lead, to improve, to coach, or to communicate, or even to make better risk-based decisions. And those examples will become the proof that you are ready for your next position. Training is one of the best ways to close a skill gap, but it only works when it's used properly. A certificate on its own is not really a future-proof. Training will improve your chances when it's targeted, applied, and converted in evidence. So the first step you need to do, you need to diagnose. Ask yourself honestly, where is the gap between my current capability and the role I want next? Is it a regulated knowledge? Is it a digital confidence gap? Is it a problem-solving gap? Or is it more about the human side, the communication, the leadership gap? The second step is training. So choose learning that builds a real competence, not just something that looks good on your CV. And the best training is relevant to your role, your next step, and the problems you actually need to solve. And then we come to the third step, is application. This is where many people stop too early, because after the training, they don't do anything with the knowledge that they've gained. So what you want to do You want to use what you've learned on the real process in the project or on the investigation. Application is where learning becomes capability. And the fourth step is your evidence. So capture what's changed. Did you reduce repeat deviations? Did you improve documentation quality? Or when you started being involved in the audit, did you suddenly see that the audit was run smoother because of the support you provided? Have you coached a colleague? Have you built a useful dashboard? So that the evidence can be whatever you worked on. Did you get a positive feedback? That could be an evidence. But what you need to do, you need to gather your evidence so you're ready. A good development mix includes your formal training, on-the-job practice, mentoring or coaching, structured feedback, and honest reflection. I'm sure you've all heard about 70-20-10. It's still here. It still applies. You can see 10% is your actual training courses, and the 70% is the practical side of it. And what you need to now, you need to work on gathering that evidence of your practical application of your newly learned skills. Once you have developed your skills, and you need to turn them into proof, because hiring managers and promotion panels will want the evidence rather than your intentions. Most people will say that they are motivated, they are adaptable, and they are good communications. But the key question is, how can you prove that you are motivated, that you are adaptable, and that you are a good communicator? And one type of evidence could be the metrics. For example, you can say that when you went on that training course for the investigations and root cause analysis, there is a faster CAPA closure, there is an improved right first time performance, even better training completion, and reduced documentation error. Okay. Another type is the applied training example, and this is very powerful. You can say, I completed the training in root cause analysis, and then I applied it to a recurring deviation. I changed the investigation approach and helped reduce the recurrence of this particular issue. This is much stronger than just simply saying that you've attended a really good and a credible course. Stakeholder stories are also very useful. Risk-based decisions, another strong form of evidence. And then, finally, you look for the next level behavior. Where are you already operating beyond your current title? Are you coaching others, improving processes, leading investigations? A simple interview or appraisal formula is that you have a situation, you have action, evidence, learning, and the next level relevant. It keeps your examples clear, practical, and focused on readiness. So get that ready for that next appraisal or your interview. As we come to an end, I want to bring the message back to one idea. Skills are built before the opportunities appear. And very often people start thinking about the development only when they see a job advert or when a promotion opportunity comes up. But by then, it can be difficult to build evidence quickly. So future-proofing is about building the capability, the confidence, and the proof before you need it. So you're getting ready for your next job in your current job. The good news is that this is within your control. You can strengthen your regulated knowledge. You can become more confident with data and digital tools. You can improve your problem solving and practice your communication skills. You can also choose your training that will support you in your future role. At the Academy of Pharmaceutical Excellence, we offer courses designed to support that kind of development, including GMP and GXP, good documentation practice. We have data integrity, deviations, and CAPA. We have root cause analysis, AI literacy, and SOP writing. If you prefer more personal approach, you can contact me on Aneta Gel at PQS Ltd for more information, or have a look at our website for the courses that we offer and see whether there is anything that you would be interested in. Thank you very much for your time today and have a nice day. Thank you. Bye.